Do you ever feel like your everyday life is just a little bit too normal? What if all it took to spice things up was sitting next to the right person? Meet Yonezawa, a high school student whose reality feels, well, a bit boring. He loves to let his mind drift, but lately his attention has been firmly anchored to the energetic, unpredictable girl who just transferred into his class, Homiya Kirei. Homiya Kirei doesn't just march to the beat of her own drum, she devours it, literally. From doing her makeup in the classroom to bringing a lunch that looks like a feast, she's a whirlwind of fun that Yonezawa can't help but observe. But his quiet fascination soon turns into something much more involved. When this quirky gal starts eyeing his lunch, Yonezawa finds himself pulled into her orbit. And just when he thinks he's got a handle on things, Ki's equally vibrant childhood friend, Hani Izuki, steps onto the scene, ready to shake things up even more. Now, let's dive in straight into the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Our main character starts by telling us how he likes looking out the window because he feels like it lets his mind drift away a bit from this boring reality. But as he looks at us, he admits that lately things have been different. He introduces us to the girl sitting next to him, calling her the quiet gal sitting next to me. Even though she doesn't say much, he says she draws his attention in a strange way. We see their names are Hochiya-Kirei and Yonezawa Norito. Norito watches her and thinks about how she puts on her makeup without worrying about people staring. He wonders why gals dress so flashy, thinking that if someone sees them while they're getting ready, it ruins the point. He mentions that in the new school year, they ended up in the same class. The situation gets even weirder when Hochiya-san suddenly walks up to his desk and stands right in front of him. Norito doesn't really know how to react, so he just tells her to go ahead. He explains to us that these days, Hochiya-san does this every morning. She actually climbs up and sits right on his desk. She does her makeup in his seat because that is where the morning light hits. She told him that apparently from her own seat, his shadow covers her hands and she can't see well. Norito just sits there, unable to do anything else. Because she is blocking his view, he realizes he can't really see outside through the window anymore. He notes that she doesn't care about people staring and her style is not the current aesthetic. In fact, he notices the makeup around her eyes keeps getting heavier and heavier. Suddenly, the teacher walks in. He's a pretty tough-looking guy who tells everyone to take their seats because they're starting homeroom. He mentions that this afternoon they will have a physical exam. Norito looks over at Hochiya and wonders what is with this gal because he notices a delicious scent. He thinks to himself that it smells really good. He finally has to ask if she is eating during homeroom. He looks at her desk and is shocked. He wonders if that is all meat with bones and asks if it's Christmas or something. She's using her textbook as a fortress wall to try and hide it, but Norito says it's super obvious because the bones are sticking out the sides. The teacher finally catches her and shouts, asking Hochiya what she is doing. Even though she's been caught, she doesn't stop. Norito notices she's got her mouth completely full and she is still glaring at the teacher with an intense look. As he watches her, he wonders how she plans to survive these 2 years if the teacher has been targeting her since day one. After catching her eating during homeroom, the teacher tells her to come to the teacher's office after this. Norito thinks to himself that he thought that would totally bring her down, but she doesn't seem bothered at all. Instead, she stared him down with this firm, defiant look. It's so intense that even the teacher froze, like, huh? Norito can only watch and think that she is way too free-spirited. Finally, it's lunchtime, but the drama doesn't stop. Some girls in the class are whispering about that girl, the one who ate her lunch early. One of them mentions that she's cute, but kind of scary. They decide they'd better not invite her to join them. Norito notices this and thinks that people are already scared of her. He tries to ignore it, telling himself that it's none of his business as he pulls out 2 onigiri. But then he feels a gaze and lets out a confused, He looks over and wonders if she is looking at him. It's getting awkward, so he asks if something is wrong. Hochiya just looks at him and asks why he is the one acting surprised. Norito realizes the truth and thinks that since she already finished her early lunch, now she's eyeing his food. He can't believe the nerve of her, but he's a nice guy. He asks if she wants some. He admits to himself that honestly, this is sort of amusing, so it's fine.
He even admits that he kind of envies her. However, seeing how messy she is, he adds that he'd never actually want to be like that. But wait, she's looking at his second onigiri now.
Noriko is shocked and wonders if she's going to take that too. He asks, "What now?" and wonders just how much can this woman eat. He starts to get a bit worried because they've got body measurements later and he wonders if she is going to be okay eating this much. Still, he decides he'll give it to her anyway. He realizes that watching her makes everything suddenly feel ridiculously pointless. He concludes that seriously, this girl only thinks 1 second ahead. Norito starts to have a little realization of his own. He thinks that maybe it's him who decided reality is boring, and he thinks that is just as stupid. He smiles to himself and thinks he should have just eaten his onigiri. The afternoon finally rolls around. The teacher announces that he's handing out the physical exam results now. He calls out for Hochiya to come get hers. As soon as she sees the paper, she looks completely devastated. She suddenly bolts out of the classroom. The teacher yells after her, asking where she is going. Norito watches her leave and thinks that something's up, wondering, Hochiya-san? He asks himself, what is this, and what is this feeling? But he quickly tries to shut those thoughts down, telling himself no, and that it is none of my business. He tries to convince himself that he has no reason to be keeping an eye on the girl next to me. However, he just can't leave it alone. He stands up and tells the teacher that, "Teacher, I'm going to go check on her." The teacher is a bit surprised, but says, oh, yes. As Norito runs through the halls, he tells himself, okay, thinking about Hochiya-san from earlier. He realizes that even if she normally moves at her own pace, she is acting weird. He finally finds her and says, there she is. He's shocked to see her on the roof. He can't help but wonder, what the hell is she? And then he sees it. He can't believe his eyes and shouts, more? Her belly. It turns out she's just staring at her bloated stomach from all those onigiri. He watches as she starts poking and jiggling it, and he realizes with a blank stare that she's playing. She snapped out of it. Her expression changes, and he wonders if it is your emotions. He sees tears in her eyes and realizes she cried, but the mood shifts instantly when he realizes, oh no, our eyes just met. Norito starts panicking, telling her to relax, I didn't do anything. He desperately tries to explain that I wasn't even looking at your stomach or anything, which we all know is a total lie. Hochiya looks incredibly embarrassed and glares at him while pulling her sweater down. She walks right up to his face, making him wonder what just happened. She leans in close and tells him that is a secret. Before he can say anything else, she bolts away. He reaches out and says, wait, hold on, but she's already gone. Standing there alone, he realizes that the physical exam results really did get to her, thinking it does affect her, doesn't it? Back in the classroom, the teacher is still being tough, shouting that when you get back, sit down. Norito goes back to his seat by the window. He goes back to his original thought, mentioning that I like looking out the window because I feel like it lets my mind drift a little from this boring reality. But then he looks over at Hochiya, who is blushing and looking surprisingly cute. He changes his mind and thinks, I think I'll also try paying a bit more attention inside the classroom. As class begins, the teacher has to call out for Yonezawa several times because Norito is totally zoned out. He thinks to himself that his head is spinning from the impact of what he saw on the roof. The teacher asks him if he didn't sleep well and tells him to read page 17 of the book. A flustered Norito can only reply, I'm sorry. He admits that he saw something very strange yesterday and he can't concentrate today. He keeps stealing glances at Hochiya, wondering if she even recognizes me at all. He notes that she herself didn't care at all about the rooftop incident, but to him it feels kind of sketchy. By the end of the day, he realizes he failed to focus in class today again. He decides he really should stay and study for a while today before I head out, so he stops at a family restaurant. The waitress gives him a loud welcome, but guess who is already there? It's Hochiya-san, and she is right in the middle of eating. She goes, as she lifts a piece of food. Norito is shocked to see her eating fried shrimp after class. The waitress comes over and asks, can I get you anything? But Norito is so distracted he can only stutter, no, He ends up sitting right across from her, thinking that, well, this is awkward. He starts to say, excuse, but stops himself. The waitress finally brings his order, saying, thank you for waiting, here is your coffee jelly. Norito decides that, well, I don't want to bother her either, and tells himself he'll study for an hour and then leave. However, he hears a massive gulp sound, and she just looks at him and says, eh? He realizes that she's stalking my coffee jelly. He hears another gulp and notes that, she swallowed. He tries to focus on his own food, thinking that sorry, but studying requires sugar. The sounds don't stop, guys. He hears gulp coming from her side of the table. He thinks it is so creepy and that she won't stop gulping. He eventually admits to himself that I can't eat listening to that. The situation is getting embarrassing. Norito thinks, damn it, and we're in uniform too. He feels like it sounds loud enough for the whole place to hear, like someone chugging a mug of beer. He realizes she doesn't even realize it herself, and that she's trying so hard to hold back her appetite. He decides that I'm the only one who can fix this. He leans over and says, "Hey, Hochiya-san," before telling her to open wide. He actually gives her a spoonful of his dessert. She makes a little hump sound as she accepts the bite. After eating it, she lets out a satisfied "ha." She looks absolutely blissful and thinks it is delicious. Naruto is just glad that, thank goodness, she's calmed down. He tells her that if you like it, you can eat the rest. He gets ready to leave and says, "I'm heading out." As he walks away, he sighs because I didn't get to study at all. But suddenly, she grabs his jacket. She looks up at him and says, "Thanks for the treat, Yonezawa-kun." Naruto is left stunned, finally realizing that so she really did remember me. The teacher announces to the class that today is the day for the physical fitness test and explains that the girls kick things off with the handball throw. Naruto looks on and wonders if Hochiya-san is any good at sports as she gets ready to throw. However, her throw is so bad it basically starts from zero. Naruto starts to realize that it seems like Hochiya-san is bad at sports. The coach shouts that next up is the shuttle run. Naruto thinks that, well, she can at least run, just as they call out that up next is Hochiya-san. As she runs, her shirt keeps riding up, and Naruto gets totally mesmerized by her belly. He's so distracted that he doesn't hear someone shout for him to be careful, Yonezawa. Thwack! He takes a ball right to the face. His friend laughs and asks him what's got him so distracted. He teases him, saying that he was staring at Hochiya-san, right? A blushing Naruto tries to defend himself by saying it's not what you think. His friend says, "I see," and starts talking about how, speaking of Garus, he'd say Yuzuki is more his type. Naruto is confused and asks, "Yuzuki?" His friend points out the girl next to Hochiya-san. Suddenly, everyone stops because Hochiya-san has literally melted onto the floor. People are asking if she is melting and calling out her name. His friend thinks she probably ran out of energy from hunger. One student wonders if Hochiya-san just gave up and passed out asleep, calling it such a haughty attitude. Another student says, honestly, this is kind of... But their blonde classmate tells everyone, sorry guys, don't worry, because this happens all the time. Naruto can only think to himself that it happens often, The teacher gets worried and asks what's wrong with her or if she is feeling sick, and calls for someone to help take her to the infirmary. Naruto's friend immediately volunteers him, shouting, "Sir, Yonezawa can handle it." Naruto tries to stop him, telling him, "Hey, don't say nonsense," but the teacher agrees and says, "All right then, Yonezawa, I'm counting on you," before telling everyone else to return to class. Naruto walks over to her and asks if she is all right. That's when she reaches her hands up. She looks up at him with those big eyes and just goes, Naruto is totally confused and wonders if that means he has to carry her. She just makes a loud, Naruto says, I see, and reaches down to grab her hands. He starts pulling with all his might, but she just goes, He tells her, come on, get up, but he realizes she's leaning her entire weight on me. He can't help but wonder if she is only doing this for attention. Our main guy starts off by telling us that he bought something for lunch, but when he got back to the classroom, it turned out there were more gals than usual. He just stood there awkwardly, thinking to himself that they took his seat. Trying to be nice, Naruto let out an "ah" and asked her if she wanted this for today.
He threw a snack at her and told her, here, take it. The narrator literally screams, 2 at once, while the new girl starts getting suspicious, wondering, is someone who isn't me feeding Ki? The new girl doesn't hold back. She glares at him and asks, and you? Who are you? She introduces herself, saying, I'm Hani Yuzuki. Our protagonist introduces himself as well, saying that I'm Yonezawa. Yuzuki immediately marks her territory, telling him that, by the way, Ki and I have been together since kindergarten, so keep that in mind. Naruto is just left wondering what's with her, thinking about how she sits in his seat without permission and then acts like this. Yuzuki keeps the interrogation going. She asks, hey Yonezawa, you seem pretty comfortable feeding Ki, but what exactly are you to her? Naruto tries to play it cool, saying that as for what he is, he's nothing special. Yuzuki thinks for a second and asks, have you ever given her something carbonated? Naruto is confused and replies, a carbonated drink? No, never. She gets all excited and shouts, wow, so you haven't. Then you don't know that Ki hates fizzy drinks and starts crying. Naruto just stays silent. She continues her list of Ki facts, asking, and what about pushing her on the swing? But you didn't know she can't swing by herself. Norito admits that no, I didn't, mentioning that he hasn't had a chance to push her on a swing. As she starts to say, so then about Ki too, he finally tries to speak up, saying, hey, wait a second, that's my seat. Yuzuki acts totally shocked, asking, huh, your seat? Ah, so this was Yonezawa's spot. Then she realizes something and asks if that means he didn't come over to talk to her with ulterior motives. Norito is baffled, asking, ulterior? How do you even get that conclusion? She just says, wow, oh, before deciding that then this is still my privilege, right? She lets out a long phew as she pulls Hochiya into a massive hug. Norito is completely flustered and lets out a, huh? Thinking to himself that this girl stuff makes it hard to know where to look. The two girls stay close, looking like total best friends, while Norito just tries to process everything. Suddenly, Yuzuki panics, shouting, ah, crap, next class is in the gym. Norito notices Hochiya giving him a strange look and wonders, what was that look just now? He thinks to himself that even if she looks at him like that, he didn't do anything.
Yuzuki winks and says, sorry, Onapi, I warmed up the seat for you, so here you go. Norito can only think, this girl, before Yuzuki grabs Hochiya's hand and says, Ki, let's go. Yuzuki keeps rushing her, saying, come on, Ki, we've got to go change. If you just sit there spacing out, we're going to be late. Norito watches them leave, whispering, Ki? Yuzuki notices something different about her best friend and asks, huh? What's wrong? She tells her that's the first time she's seen that expression on her, and that while it's subtle, she's different than usual. Finally, she demands to know what the heck she is eating. The scene starts with Yuzuki excitedly shouting for Ki and suggesting that they should eat lunch on the rooftop, but deep down, she's a little jealous and wonders if Ki really wants to eat with Yonezawa. Yuzuki starts reflecting on her own behavior, thinking about how she misunderstood Ki the other day and rushed in without thinking. She tells herself that she has to respect what Ki wants because she needs to be a more understanding woman. She worries that if she doesn't, she'll never be able to be Senpai's girlfriend. She calls out for Yonezawa to wait. As they sit down, Norito thinks to himself that eating together isn't bad, but it feels a bit awkward. Norito tells the girls that he only brought food for himself today. Yuzuki tells him not to worry, because her mom made Ki's lunch today. She says that if that's the case, then it's fine. But watch out, guys, she has a secret plan. She thinks to herself that today's lunch at her place is a karaage bento with 2 layers. She's determined to fill Ki's stomach and thinks, directed at Norito, that she's sorry, but she wants him to feel humiliated by her superior cooking. Norito opens his yakisoba and starts squeezing a huge amount of mayonnaise on it. Yuzuki is totally grossed out and shouts, mayonnaise? She notices that Ki is staring so hard at Norito's food. Yuzuki tells herself that fried chicken is Ki's favorite food, so she thinks she can't lose this battle. Ki just stares at the food silently. Yuzuki is shocked when Ki suddenly grabs the food. Yuzuki thinks she's won, saying she knew it and that Ki prefers her food. But then she sees the chicken pieces being dumped right into the yakisoba and lets out a confused, huh? The two of them can only watch in horror as Ki starts slurping everything up. They both exclaim that she mixed them. Yuzuki is absolutely devastated, crying out that her karaage all got swallowed up by the yakisoba. Norito is also mourning the loss, crying out about his yakisoba. Meanwhile, Ki is just in her own world, slurping away. And just like that, the box is completely empty. She really polished it off. Ki looks up at them with a sheepish face and says, she's sorry. She admits to them that she ate it all. Yuzuki starts panicking, saying that all of this happened just because she said they should eat together, the 3 of them. Norito, being a total champ, tells her that if someone can eat with such obvious enjoyment, then I guess he wouldn't feel bad about it. Yuzuki is moved and wonders if Yonezawa is actually a big-hearted person. She offers to let him eat the bottom layer of the bento, and Norito is surprised, asking if she's really sure. Finally, Yuzuki notices Ki's messy face and tells her she's got food on your mouth.